This episode is brought to you by State Farm. From your morning podcast to your afternoon playlist, State Farm knows you personalize your entire day, and that's why State Farm helps you personalize your insurance with the State Farm Personal Price Plan. It offers coverage options that help protect what you care about most at an affordable price just for you. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
So good, so good, so good.
New markdowns up to 70% off are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. Fresh kicks, spring tops, new dresses. There's always a score.
I mean, the denim section is unreal.
Why do I rack? All the dresses.
I always find something amazing.
Head to your Nordstrom Rack store to find can't-miss deals on all the spring things. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett, and ladies and gentlemen, it happened. Deebo Samuel was officially traded from the San Francisco 49ers. Going to break down everything from the finances, who wins, who loses, who replaces Deebo Samuel in San Francisco. We're even going to dive into a trade that could have been and who might be next on the San Francisco 49ers chopping block. All that coming your way next on 49ers Access. Again, folks, it happened. I cannot believe we are here. March 1st will go down as one of the most pivotal moments in San Francisco 49ers history under the Kyle Shanahan / John Lynch regime, because they traded away arguably one of the most important offensive weapons in San Francisco 49ers history under Kyle Shanahan, that being Deebo Samuel. I cannot believe it happened. I'm shocked it happened. I am honestly floored and excited to know it did get done, because this is a move that needed to get done. It's a move that needed to happen. It is a trade that will hopefully set San Francisco ahead instead of behind in the future. We're here. We are living in the reality of Deebo Samuel no longer playing for the San Francisco 49ers and has been traded to the Washington Commanders in exchange for a 5th-round pick. I do want to start today's show off by asking you to like, share, and subscribe, but also give me your favorite Deebo Samuel moment behind, because I know, and this goes for myself too, a lot of the energy, a lot of the emotions about this is that, thank God Deebo Samuel's out of here. I don't want this to be that. I don't want his departure to be negative. While I do think it's a good thing for San Francisco, let's take a moment to live in the past for a second and look back at Deebo Samuel's top moments in San Francisco. When I think of Deebo Samuel as a San Francisco 49er, my first thought goes to 2019, his rookie season, 2nd-round pick. That Seattle Seahawks game where Deebo Samuel gets the end around, busts to his left, spins around the defender, and leaves that Seattle Seahawks defense in the dust. San Francisco gets the win on the road for the first time in almost forever against the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle, set the tone for what has become one of the best runs in Niners history, really set San Francisco the path for success in the future because of Deebo Samuel. That year, 2019, was so special. Deebo Samuel was a massive part of that. I always go back to, again, the exact same year, going to the Super Bowl. When they got Emmanuel Sanders, they're wearing their, Louis Vuitton robes, all the receivers were, and you're like, this is what it's supposed to look like, this team being successful. And Deebo Samuel, kind of the beginning of who Deebo became to be and the ascension he had so quickly in his NFL career. Obviously, the entire 2021 season, just putting the offense on their back on a team that struggled so much early. They went and drafted Trey Lance for the 2-quarterback system. There were some injuries along the way, and Deebo Samuel was the boat that lifted all tides. He was the ship that carried the offense. You can honestly argue that without Deebo Samuel in that year, San Francisco may have been a 7-win team, a 6-win team. He was so perfect. He was everything this team needed, which is one of the reasons as to why Kyle Shanahan in the future may have been a little more open to relying on Deebo Samuel a lot. Deebo, again, just such a perfect weapon for Kyle in the offense in 2021. That season was incredible. His touchdown pass against the Rams, all the runs and catches he had, just running through defenders, just owning Jalen Ramsey on a consistent level, almost every single time the Rams and the Niners faced off. That Week 17, Week 18, season finale in LA, leading up to the Green Bay Packers game, even along that same season in Dallas, where Deebo's like, give me the football. You want to have somebody go out there and carry you to a win. My name is Deebo Samuel, and I'm here to answer the call. Deebo was such a big part of that. It was awesome to see. I'm grateful to have seen one of the greatest seasons for an offensive player in Niner history in 2021 because of Deebo Samuel. He was an All-Pro, deservedly an All-Pro, which unfortunately set the tone, set the standard for what we hoped Deebo could be, although the last couple of years has not been able to replicate that. I do think 2023 gave us the last glimpse of what Deebo Samuel could have been, was in San Francisco. I know the contract, 3 years, $71 million, gets a lot of hate, and at times, rightfully so. Deebo played really bad last year for San Francisco, but 2023, he was incredible down the stretch, kind of beginning with that first Seahawks game, carrying over in to the game against Philadelphia, as Bobo points out here, saying, my favorite Deebo moment was when he destroyed the Philadelphia Eagles in 2023. Yeah, just all the smack talk he had saying that Philadelphia wasn't that good and James Bradbury was trash. Like, there's so many moments of Deebo Samuel's career that you're like, you're going to regret saying that to the opposing team. And Deebo, in his prime, could make anybody eat their words. And that 2023 game against Philadelphia, you're at the link, both teams are talking crap, you're both hyped up. That was a special Deebo Samuel moment, him waving goodbye to the fans, Dre Greenlaw's little boop to Big Dom on the sideline. There was so much to love from that. And look, as someone that is overjoyed to get Deebo Samuel out of San Francisco, I can look back at the memories of 2002, two incredible offensive outputs by one of the most unique talents in NFL history. I wish Deebo the best. That said, can we pop champagne? Can we pop bottles? The San Francisco 49ers actually got something for Deebo Samuel. What felt like there was going to be a release and that it was just going to be saving up and freeing up some money. I am overjoyed. I am just dumbfounded as to how the San Francisco 49ers got a trade done to get Deebo Samuel out of town. I have long said anything you could have gotten for Deebo Samuel was a win. I said a 7th-round pick. You give me a freaking backup kicker. Anything you get for a player, I'm going to assume the Broncos, the Texans, we're both saying if he's released, we'll make an offer, but we're not going to trade for him. When your potential trade partners had dwindled so much this offseason because Deebo played poorly in the contract, the fact that San Francisco got a 5th-round pick is a great trade for this team. Now, obviously, we'll have to see what happens with that pick, and we'll get more into the draft pick compensation in a second, but I do want to focus on the league-wide reaction to this trade, because I myself can say it's a great trade. I myself can say, oh, yes, thank God, a 5th-round pick. This is awesome. San Francisco, gets to save some money next year and take the entire cap hit this year, which they can do because of their large salary cap or their large cap they currently have, cap space, excuse me. But a lot of the reactions I'm seeing are the exact opposite. Not when it comes to San Francisco 49er fans, albeit in the YouTube chat here, Calachipto says it's a good trade. Can't pay people for past performances, which kind of leads into what John Lynch was hinting towards in his combine press conference, then you had people like the great 1765 who says Deebo won the trade in a much better quarterback situation than he was in San Francisco, which time will tell if that's the case, albeit Jaden Daniels was awesome last year for the Commanders. But I think looking at the NFL landscape, Niner fans, I think inside the faithful, are saying it's a great trade. We love Deebo, but it was time. It had to happen. The clock was ticking. He's trending downwards. He's near 30 years old. It was just a matter of time before this happened. It's a great deal for us. San Francisco's money round is that 5th round, so that 5th round pick will probably be an all-pro, albeit that's kind of crazy to say, but, it makes San Francisco fans happy. Around the NFL, it is almost the exact opposite reaction. People are just they're having their minds blown as to how Niner fans can, one, be happy or satisfied with the trade and the compensation they got back for it, freeing up money and getting a 5th round pick in return. You look at Skip Bayless, Chase Daniel, Commander fans, for example. They're all saying, they're laughing. How did Deebo Samuel only go for a 5th round pick? Oh my God, what a steal by the Commanders. And I think it's very interesting to see how Deebo Samuel is viewed outside of the Niners. It's interesting to see that, we watch every single game, we analyze every single game, and we look at it and say, Deebo really didn't play that well, and maybe there was some reasons behind it. The offensive line wasn't great. There was some backup quarterback issues. Aiyuk got hurt. McCaffrey was hurt. Deebo just didn't look like the same player. Wasn't running through tackles. Was getting hit once and going down. Didn't feel or look like the exact same guy. He had pneumonia this past year for a little bit. He got hurt for a short stint. There's a lot of contextual things that could lead people to believe Deebo Samuel could be a great player once again. But I would like to push back. And I want to be very clear here that I think Deebo Samuel can be a really good contributor. And I think he's going to a really good spot for him, albeit I don't think he is someone that can any longer be number one. I think he isn't really someone that can get the football, 8 to 10 times per game. I think Deebo Samuel is one of those special players that almost when used sparingly, is he better? That, if he's used correctly, I think you will see Deebo Samuel have an uptick in production next year, or I guess this year now, with the Washington Commanders, albeit I just think time ran stale, and who Deebo Samuel is now, nearing the age of 29, inching closer to 30, in the last year of his contract. You can argue a more motivated Deebo Samuel is a good thing, which it could be, albeit this past year. He looked pretty motivated early in the season. Things didn't go well. But Deebo Samuel, during his prime in San Francisco, was, like Bobo points out here, another moment is when when Deebo told Kyle, get me the ball against Dallas in the playoffs. I don't think Deebo Samuel is that player anymore, but I do think he can still be a contributor. I think he's going to a good spot. I think he makes the Commanders more dangerous, but I do want to be very clear here. When you see big trades like this, a lot of people outside of whatever team's fan base that player is departing from only sees name value. Oh, Deebo Samuel. Oh, Devontae Adams. Oh, Aaron Rodgers. You see these big names. Go back to when Randy Moss got traded to the Raiders or to the Titans late in his career. Oh, it's Randy Moss. Yeah, but he isn't the all-pro Randy Moss he once was. While Deebo isn't Titans Randy Moss bad, I just think that at this point in time, while maybe he's happy and a clearer mind can certainly lead to a better season for him, the league-wide assumption that, it's Deebo Samuel, I think is a big misconception around the NFL. I think if you watched Deebo Samuel in 2024, you saw a player that was struggling to almost be himself on the football field. Deebo, I don't know what it was exactly, nor am I going to speculate, but you saw a player in his own head trying to do too much, speaking out kind of wildly on social media and just getting frustrated too much as to what was happening. And not to say lashing out, but I think what it does is it gives the Commanders, as Rob D points out here, is that it lures coverage away from Terry McLaurin, which I think is the Commanders' kind of desire to have. Although, if you're asking Deebo to, be my legit number 2 option, am I crazy to say that I'd rather have Dyami Brown, who I think had a really good year last year, is ascending up the receiver market, or at least trending that way? And Deebo looks slower. I don't think the weight is that big of an issue, albeit I do think he plays a little heavier, or better when he's heavier. But he looks slower. He looked kind of weaker. But I do love Deebo. I wish nothing but the best. I just think there is better days ahead for San Francisco, letting go of Deebo Samuel, and I don't think that's too crazy to say. I really think that Deebo Samuel is better off elsewhere, and I think San Francisco is better off elsewhere, or better off without Deebo Samuel on the roster next year. Which leads me to a big question I have: is what is the impact in the locker room? We've talked long and hard. Deebo is the energy guy. He has the boombox. He sets the example with his play. He is someone that when Deebo Samuel gets hurt, you see the sideline. Deebo's out. How do we react? How do we build ourselves back up? Who is the alpha, right? And Deebo certainly was that for a lot of time in San Francisco, mainly in 2021 and 2023. But even that game against the Lions in the playoffs 2 years ago now, like, when Deebo got hurt, it was a hush. How do you replace that? He's a leader on the team, albeit at times, again, social media, not his best friend at times. But Deebo Samuel sets the tone for you, very much like Dre Greenlaw on your defense, right? And when you talk about losing players like that, the impact isn't just on the field. It's in the locker room. It's when things are going bad, who is keeping us kind of even keel? Who's able to pick us up by himself? And the question is, how does it impact the locker room? And how do you replace that? How do you replace a player like that? How do you find the next Deebo Samuel that says, not just with his play, but on the sideline, like in Dallas, in the playoffs, hey, Kyle, we have to score here. Get me the ball. I will make sure, I am guaranteeing you, I can pick this offense up. I think San Francisco is hoping that Christian McCaffrey can be that for this offense when or if he's healthy in 2025. I think they're hoping George Kittle can be that. But again,
this episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
There are injury concerns with Christian McCaffrey. There is George Kittle playing tight end, not being the most valuable position on the offense. I do think San Francisco, although Deebo Samuel is trending downwards, needs to find their next alpha playmaker. And I don't know who that is. I don't know if that is Christian McCaffrey, who will hopefully be healthy next year, who has been an offensive player of the year when he's healthy. I'm not sure if that is Juwan Jennings or Ricky Pearsall, because right now, in the receiver room, you have first-round pick Ricky Pearsall, who looked really good down the stretch, and you're hoping with a brand new offseason, with OTAs and minicamp and hopefully no injuries to kind of sideline him, he has the full process with Brock Purdy, if he gets signed relatively soon, that he can ascend and become the number one option on this team. But by de facto now, Ricky Pearsall is this team's number one receiver in regards to being a separator, having the biggest ability to be the alpha, knowing his skill set, because Juwan Jennings, who is a darn good receiver, not to say he is kind of pigeonholed into a certain role. We saw last year he was great, almost 1,000 yards. Juwan just can't do what Pearsall can do. Or when a healthy Brandon Aiyuk is out there, what Brandon Aiyuk can do. Or despite Juwan being, I think, a really good player and one of the best yak guys. He'll fight through contact. He'll go up and get it. Juwan has some of the best hands in football, in my opinion. And just being just a dog, to kind of sum it up in a rather simple way, San Francisco has to find the next, legitimate playmaking receiver in their offense. Now, I know people believe that maybe Devontae Adams, maybe Tyreek Hill or T. Higgins. I have a hard time buying into the fact that San Francisco is trading away Deebo Samuel. And maybe there is some talk about trading away Brandon Aiyuk, albeit I don't see that happening. You got to find the guy. And I just don't think Devontae Adams will come here. Maybe being a NorCal guy, Fresno wants to come home for a couple years, but it seems like that Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers are stupidly a package deal. I don't know why he tends to hitch his wagon to Aaron Rodgers. I think Devontae can be an incredible receiver without Aaron Rodgers. So I'm confused by that. But if Devontae Adams gets released and wants to come for a cheap deal, awesome, fine. They're not trading for him. I would avoid Tyreek Hill like the plague. Wasn't great last year, has character issues on and off the field. I don't think he fits the culture here. T. Higgins is interesting, albeit there's mixed reporting as to what the Bengals are doing with him. I think they tagged him, or at least that was the intention. And so I don't the Niners aren't going to trade Deebo and maybe trade Brandon Aiyuk and then go sign T. Higgins. That doesn't make sense. They're trying to cut money. They're trying to save money, get cheaper, retool, recalibrate. So how do you recalibrate your wide receiver room when you don't really want to spend money? That happens through the draft, through cheaper options at receiver. Maybe that's in the form of Keenan Allen, who I think fits much better in the offense, albeit has real injury issues and concerns, albeit it's a Cal guy. Maybe he wants to come home for the final year of his career and be the number 2 here, or be, the kind of the bridge to Brandon Aiyuk. I think you're looking at more of, Robert Woods and Brandon Cooks, and maybe steal Diami Brown from the Commanders, who probably won't get that big of a payday. But that leads to a bigger question. You're losing Deebo Samuel. Do you need to find the next Deebo Samuel? With Deebo Samuel gone, do you have to find, the Deebo Samuel 2.0? And I know a lot of people, and I think what Deebo does underneath is so valuable. We saw it here for a long time with the Niners. I'm sure to some degree we'll see it with Washington next year. Deebo Samuel and the way he plays does help your offense. There is some drawbacks to that, where in bigger games his limitations can hurt you, mainly in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. But I do think that there is some value to finding a player like Deebo Samuel. Now, maybe there is some consideration to Jacob Cowing, who didn't really find himself last year. Maybe his body wasn't right, smaller receiver. We know Kyle Shanahan is so tough on wideouts, which is why I think, they have 11 draft picks now. They can maybe be a little wild, or at least, maybe not wild, but Kyle can take a risk on a player. If, say, he likes a certain receiver, whether it is, Savion Williams from TCU, or Jalen Royals from Utah State, or somebody else, from Jalen Higgins from Iowa State. Maybe Kyle feels more comfortable using a higher-end draft pick, day 1, day 2, on a receiver. And we all say, eye roll. But receiver has become a need now. And thankfully, free agency is first, although there's rumors about, Kyle Juszczyk might be gone. They're going to cut Javon Hargrave. They're going to be able to save some money and free up some money by doing some moves, extending Kittle, maybe extending Fred Warner. But I just don't believe they're going to be big fish hunting, or big game hunting on the market, especially at receiver. I think it would benefit the Niners to draft some receivers, let them work with Brock Purdy, and maybe build that chemistry from day one, rather than signing somebody, maybe them not being a fit. Bring back Chris Conley, insulate your room somewhat. You don't have many people, so I really think that, to find the next Deebo Samuel, does that mean simply as the archetype that he was, the underneath guy, the bigger guy, the gadget guy, if you will? Or does that mean just finding a number 2 legit receiver to help you out? I'm leaning towards the latter, but maybe there are some people that believe that is Juwan Jennings. And, if Pearsall can ascend, maybe you don't need somebody else, or maybe you're looking for a Band-Aid instead of a quick fix for your offense. But I'm of the mindset of 11 draft picks, draft 2 receivers, and maybe you draft one on day 2 and one on day 3 late, and maybe you have some intrigue there and you don't mind it. But my question is to you, do you believe that San Francisco needs to find the next Deebo Samuel? And if you don't think that, my question also is, who fills the quote-unquote Deebo Samuel role? Could there be maybe an inside-the-room answer, inside-the-building answer to missing and trading away Deebo Samuel next year? I think maybe there is some real consideration, at least from myself, that Christian McCaffrey could very much serve as, Deebo Samuel next year. I think San Francisco wouldn't mind, hopefully this is the case, I think this should be the case, letting Christian McCaffrey play as a receiver more often, getting him in the slot, getting him on those end arounds, using him as an offensive weapon rather than a running back. McCaffrey is so dynamic, so unique, and I think that if they bring back Jordan Mason, which we'll see what happens there in the next few days or so, you also have Guerendo, I think you don't really need to find the next Deebo Samuel per se if you're open to utilizing your running backs more. And having Christian McCaffrey be the end around, the screen guy, the jet sweep player, and use that Deebo Samuel to benefit him, keep him more fresh, and then have Jordan Mason and Guerendo be a more or a heavier factor in your offense. I think that really helps and really could help and almost alleviate the pressure of, okay, crap, have to replace Deebo, which sometimes Kyle and John have panicked at time, and they've liked a player, Jalen Hurd, and they like the idea of what that player could be, but, let's avoid guys that have injuries. Let's avoid players that maybe don't have the collegiate level production you want to see that maybe can translate to the NFL. We saw last year, they drafted ready-to-go players, Pearsall, Pooney, Mustafa, Guerendo, Green, 5-year college pros, 6-year college pros, 4-year seniors, guys you said, okay, day one, they should be able to contribute. I don't really want to draft prospects. I think that, when you draft guys that need 2 or 3 years and you hope so, and maybe could be's one day, that's where you get in trouble. That's where you have the boom or bust. I don't think San Francisco should be in the business of boom or bust. Now, Kyle Shanahan is a quote-unquote genius, and I think he is that. Maybe he overvalues certain players. I think there's a reason as to why San Francisco trades Deebo Samuel away, and then also meets with Savion Williams from TCU. I think you're going to go into the draft not really knowing what San Francisco is going to do at all. Maybe San Francisco values a, receiver in the first round. If McMillan falls from Arizona or Luther Burden falls from, out of the top 10, maybe Luther Burden becomes the pick at 11, albeit I hate that. Kyle, if he values and says this player is going to help us win more football games than, say, a D tackle or a safety or a cornerback or even an edge rusher, they'll pull the trigger on those deals. But I really think that if they're open, which they should be, to having the answers maybe be already inside the building, I think it could alleviate a lot of the pressure of finding the next Deebo Samuel. But what do you think down below? Do you think Jordan Mason should be featured more in the offense and be part of the offense to help alleviate the loss of Deebo Samuel per se? Or do you think that, they have to go find somebody else now, and it has to be a star? I think Mason, McCaffrey, Guerendo should all be featured in the offense much more in a very different way than what they were last year. Jedi says here, they just need to replace his production. It doesn't have to look the same, quote-unquote, run you over. I agree. I think, like, when you have Aiyuk, you signed him last year, maybe there's some bad feelings towards that. I don't want San Francisco's offense to look the same. I think, yes, you want to have this vaunted offensive line that can run through people, that can run over defensive linemen and get to the second level and just destroy and wear down defenses. I don't know if you need your receivers to do that. Yes, you love it. You want to have some yak guys, and you have that. You have Pearsall, who I think can be that. You have Kittle. You have Juwan, who isn't as a big speed guy, but is certainly, a tough SOB, if you will. You have Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield. You have Jordan Mason. You have Isaac Guerendo, who I think in year 2 can really take a big step. I would agree. I don't think it's about replacing the player. It's about replacing the production. And I don't think you need to have Deebo 2.0 to do that. You got to, when they drafted Pearsall, I think everybody thought, well, Deebo's gone. Deebo's done. They're moving in a different direction offensively. And I think this is what you're seeing, although maybe they'd also want to trade Aiyuk, which again is a head scratcher for me. There was a shift last year at the draft. And I think you're kind of seeing that shift come to fruition this offseason as well. So I'm hoping that's the case, because I'd rather have, man coverage beaters all over the place and separators that can get open consistently. That's how the Rams won. They had OBJ and they had Cooper Kupp. They had man coverage beaters and other weapons too, but it was Stafford and those guys out there beating you. And this team luckily has Christian McCaffrey, who, if he's healthy, can be maybe, not as good as Saquon last year, but can be a, consistent presence in your offense once again, which will obviously help you in the long run. But again, Jedi, you are completely correct. Replace the production, not the player. Justin Fontenot says this on the Facebook chat. Thank you, Justin, for tuning in here. He says, should have tried to snatch Christian McCaffrey's brother in the Deebo trade. So a lot of what I've garnered from the Deebo trade was that San Francisco was asking for a 4th-round pick in return. One of the reasons as to why they couldn't get a 4th-round pick was because they were unwilling to pay any of Deebo's salary. It was, if you take Deebo, it is a clean trade. It is no money left behind. He is your problem now, if you will. And I think a lot of that was, we want to save money. Give us our 4th-round pick, a 5th-round pick, what they got. But it is a clean takeaway. They did not want to bring back any players. And I don't think the Commanders, knowing they were losing Dyami Brown and maybe Zach Ertz this offseason, which they have plenty of money to bring those guys back, but currently impending free agents, I don't think the Commanders were willing to part ways with McCaffrey out there in Washington. They also overdrafted the heck out of him last year, so they certainly were not going to trade him away in a deal for Deebo Samuel. But I get what you're saying, get more. I just don't think Deebo's trade value was high enough whatsoever. I'm even shocked to learn that the Niners wanted the 4th-round pick and maybe could have even gotten it had they been open to eating part of Deebo Samuel's salary. So this was very much a take Deebo, wash your hands clean, Pontius Pilate style, and say, hey, he's yours, not my problem anymore. But I do like your thinking, which, again, I think maybe gives you an idea as to, you want to get McCaffrey from Washington. There's a lot of McCaffrey from Washington's in this draft class, which I think is the area and the avenue they're going to go to replace Deebo Samuel's production this offseason. As we pause for a second before we dive into the pick itself, the compensation, and even get into what the financial ramifications are of the deal, I want to let you know, if you want to watch the NFL in person next year, want to go to an NBA game, want to go to a baseball game, spring training is happening as we speak, or you even want to go to a concert as the spring and summertime picks up here rather shortly, go to SeatGeek.com and use our promo code 49ersaccess, 49ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com and save yourself $20 off your first purchase. And here's a tip. If you already have an account, make a different email, and you can use the promo code over and over again. It's how you beat the system. Don't hate the player, hate the game, my friends. And I hope this year you get to go to a game yourself using that promo code 49ers Access. Okay, let's talk about what San Francisco got back in the trade itself. What they got back was a 2025 fifth-round pick, which again is astonishing to hear. My assumption was sixth-round pick, leaning towards 6, so I am completely happy it's a fifth-round pick this year. The thing about the pick is that I know when you hear that, only a fifth-round pick, really it's Deebo Samuel. You got to realize this, and this is why I think it's a great trade. The pick was originally not from the Commanders. The pick came from, initially, the New Orleans Saints in the Marshawn Lattimore trade. So this is not Washington NFC Championship game level pick. This is the Saints, who are utterly garbage, level of a fifth-round pick, which again, still a fifth-round pick, but if you go back to last year's draft, I believe that pick should be the 11th pick in the fifth round, so really not that bad. You're almost a late-end fourth-round pick, so it really is not that bad in the long run. Again, not that bad. You're around the 11th to 13th overall pick, depending on the comp picks that get handed out this year by the NFL. But I love this. Deebo Samuel did not want to be a San Francisco 49er this offseason. He said, get me out of here. I want to get out. The opportunity for me is not here. I want to play elsewhere. And the fact that San Francisco is able to get and trade Deebo away, get out of that contract, if you will, not pay him his $17 million that he got, because the Commanders are eating the entire $17 million this year. It's a clean cutaway. They get the fifth-round draft pick and back, and I know that they're going to eat that cap hit, $31 million this year, but when you do that, by trading away Deebo Samuel now, instead of June 1st, or instead of March 23rd when his option bonus kicked in, you get that fifth-round pick. You now know where you stand in the draft. You have a month and a half to really dial in, find the picks you like. You have the scouting combine is about to be over today. You have your top 30 visits. Like, things are ramping up, and having 11 draft picks walking into this year, they have at least one draft pick in every single round now. They have the maneuverability to go up and down the draft board at will, and they can really stock up on talent. Where they had 10 picks, it was great, but when you don't pick from round 4 all the way to round 6, there's a big gap there. Now you don't mind moving one of those 6th-round picks or trading up using a 4th-round pick or a 3rd-round pick. It allows San Francisco to be more aggressive, maybe earlier on day 1, and maybe even earlier on day 2 as well. So I love this. It gives them more firepower. It also gives them more chances to hit, because we know San Francisco, they'll take their chances. They will maybe fall in love with the player a little too much. But when you're trying to restock and recalibrate, you are now, if they use all their selections, you get 11 new players that are rookies coming into your roster, infuse it with talent. It's exactly what you want. Yes, you would have loved a first or a second-round pick, but a fifth-round pick is good enough for me. Good enough. Deebo's gone. It almost removes the hindrances that may have been holding Kyle Shanahan back. We all saw a lot of game plans where it was Deebo or nothing. And as soon as Deebo Samuel got hurt, what do we do? Getting rid of that, I think, goes a long way for this team. And I think now having 11 picks gives them so much maneuverability. They can go up and down the draft board, make the trades they want to. And I think even if San Francisco doesn't make all 11 picks, they can be aggressive if they really, really love a player, whether it's a safety or a cornerback, and it's in that 3rd to 4th round range. That 5th round pick does come more valuable to you because, hey, we pick 89, you want to go to pick 74. Look at the 5th round pick. Boom. You get the guy they love. Maybe it is that receiver. Maybe it is the offensive lineman you want. Like, again, this certainly helps San Francisco. 5th-round picks are seen better as 6th and 7th-round draft picks. I do think this helps San Francisco a ton, but we haven't even got to the financial situation. Man, oh man, oh man, oh man. Because really, yes, it is pick 148 from the Saints. Again, that'll probably be pick 13 or 11 of the 5th round. So again, not a great pick. It is a 5th round pick, mind you. But again, it gives them firepower to move around. Bobo asks here, before we dive into the finances, is there any word on getting another defensive end to help out Nick Bosa? This may be a time to discuss what deal was being discussed before the Deebo Samuel for a 5th round pick trade actually happened, because according to Mike Silver and Diana Rossini, the 49ers and Commanders were discussing a trade that would have sent Deebo Samuel to the Washington Commanders and sent Jonathan Allen back to the Niners. Now, the deal didn't happen because of Allen's contract. It didn't happen because of San Francisco not wanting to spend big money on a defensive tackle who has not played as of great in the last year or so, albeit really good player in years past. But that was the deal that they were trying to get done. Deebo Samuel for Jonathan Allen. There is some rumors, conversation that maybe a deal can still take place between the Niners and Jonathan Allen. I know, well, I'm speculating here, but I would not be shocked to know that with the Niners not wanting to pay Deebo's contract, wanting that clean split, I wouldn't be shocked to learn that San Francisco, maybe the holdup was the Commanders not wanting to pay Allen's contract or part of it to help San Francisco out. So maybe if that can change, Jonathan Allen could be a San Francisco 49er. He also may get cut, which probably is more likely, which could then lead him back to San Francisco. But he's a defensive tackle, not an edge rusher. San Francisco did talk to James Pierce from Tennessee in the draft. A lot of rumors flying around of Max Crosby if San Francisco wants to swing really big, although John Lynch kind of tempered the expectation for that. I am of the mindset of Khalil Mack makes more sense. Joey Bosa makes more sense. Again, bigger names. I know for a fact Joey Bosa wants to play in San Francisco if he's cut by the Chargers. So I think we're kind of waiting to see. I'm sure there is, 10 days till free agency begins on March 12th, I believe is the date. So there'll be more cuts before we get there. But I think Joey Bosa is the name to look out for. I really hope so. But there hasn't really been some deep connection of like a draft pick or a prospect or, a free agent name. There only really has been Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, which I probably think San Francisco would like either one of those guys. Probably going to be cheaper one-year deals, lower cap hits, not spend too much money on. They're likely not going to have to give either one of them, a Max Crosby or Myles Garrett level extension. Even Trey Hendrickson has been kind of, put out there as a name, which will be awesome. I think is more likely than Crosby and Garrett, although Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack are more of your mercenaries for hire signings. That will probably be what happens. Sonia, I wish I could read this. I don't know what this means. Maybe somebody else does. I don't speak Spanish. My wife is in there. She speaks Spanish. Her family speaks Spanish, but I have no idea what you're saying. I hope it's very nice. I'm going to not even try to, but I hope you're doing okay, Sonia. I wish you all the best, but I just don't speak Spanish. But hola, ¿cómo estás? That's all I'll say to you, and I hope you're doing well. Benali P says this here in the YouTube chat. Notable Niners 5th round picks. Dre Greenlaw, Talanoa Hufanga, Diamador Lenore, George Kittle. Yeah, I don't know. I trust them. I trust this team more with the 5th round pick over a first anyways. Yeah. Yes, oh yes, oh yes. While you'd rather have a top-end pick, obviously a better talent up there, San Francisco has shown the propensity to have a better luck in the 5th round. A great one says, she's in France, talking about Sonia. Oh, okay, I see that here. Sonia, if you're in France, I apologize. Thought it was Spanish. That's my bad. It's words I didn't know, so I apologize. But again, if you're in France, awesome. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you're doing great. But no, Bobo, I don't have a translator. Maybe I should get one. Maybe if I wasn't going so quickly here, maybe I put in Google Translate. But again, Sonia, hope you're doing great. And I want to get back to the finances. And thank you, Great One, for pointing that out for me. You have my back, and I appreciate that. Don't make me look too bad on the YouTube chat and on the audio podcast. But let's get into the finances, because there's been so much discussion as to what really is going on, how much San Francisco is saving, how much they're losing. Like, a lot of this has been one big misconception. And I want to hopefully clear this up, because a lot of people have questions. A lot of people are saying things that may or may not be true. And a lot of people don't really know what's happening. Some do. And again, just to clarify, that's all this is. I want to clarify, because diving into this, the Niners trade away Deebo Samuel to the Commanders. And I'll go really slow here. The Commanders are taking on Deebo Samuel's entire $17.55 million 2025 salary. That includes his base salary, that $15 million roster bonus, his per game bonus, and his workout bonus. That is all the Commanders are paying. The Niners are paying zero of Deebo Samuel's 2025 salary. What the Niners are paying are the dead cap hit that it cost to trade Deebo Samuel away. That number accumulates to $31.55 million. Now, had San Francisco traded Deebo post June 1st, they would have split that over 2 years. But because of San Francisco trading away Deebo Samuel early before June 1st, that cap hit hits the books this year, and this year alone, again, essentially making this a 2025 clean split. As soon as Deebo is played out this next year, he is no longer on San Francisco's books. Done, finitoed, gonzo. 2026 should not be a problem. It's all paid this year. Not next year, all this year. That's why getting a deal done now was so important. By trading Deebo away, it results in losing $15.6 million in cap space this year. So San Francisco was roughly around like $51-ish million estimated in cap space before trading Deebo. When this deal hits the books on March 12th, the beginning of the new league year, they are now going to have $38.2 million in cap space heading into free agency. Now, that means when it comes to negotiating Brock Purdy's deal, they're going to have just under $40 million to negotiate with. That also means they can recoup a lot of the money they've lost by trading away Deebo Samuel, $15.6 million to be exact on the cap this year. They can recoup that by extending George Kittle, either redoing or extending Fred Warner. So there is ways for San Francisco to recoup that money to a certain extent, not all of it, but some of it. And it really was imperative for San Francisco to get this thing done. Again, clean sweep. No future dead cap hits next year. It is all on 2025. They had the money to do it. This is kind of what they were building towards. Yes, they have other priorities. Again, Purdy, Kittle, Warner, free agents as well, their draft class. But a lot of the money they saved was to take a hit like this and trade away Deebo Samuel. So the cap is not a problem. The cap is not a problem whatsoever. So, again, I think when you talk about, the cap hit's so big, San Francisco did their due diligence to alleviate how big of a hit that would be, and I think really help himself in the long run, getting Deebo off the roster, moving on from him. They have the money to spend this offseason. As I'm getting clowned for the Sonya situation, Great One says, it was in Spanish. That's even better, brother. That's funny. Well, I appreciate you guys. That's great, though. But Sonya, again, whether it's France or Spanish, I hope you're doing great out there. Wherever you're at. But Deebo, financially, draft pick compensation-wise, getting him off the roster for him and for San Francisco. I think this is a win-win for both teams. Now, obviously, to some people, the win may come down to who they pick with that 5th round draft pick, or maybe if they package that pick for something or somebody else. A lot of that will hinge on, or a lot of people's opinions of the trade will hinge on this. But I'll tell you what, when people no longer want to work for you or play for you, and you can get something back in return, and also free up and get rid of dead cap hits for the future, which Jed York seems very, very, very opinionated on the fact they got to free up money, and he don't want to pay guaranteed contracts out the wazoo. That he wants to save some money, or at least maybe get some bigger boom for his buck that he's spending on. Getting rid of Deebo likely makes some sense. Being 6-11 certainly changed things, but I love this. I think this is a win-win. You free up money, you get a draft pick in return, and Deebo gets to go play for what seems like a pretty good team. He likes the GM. He likes the front office. Maybe Dre Greenlaw joins him this offseason. Who knows? I'm sure it did not hurt that Brandon Aiyuk hyped the you-know-what out of Jaden Daniels this past offseason, or I guess last offseason. And I'm sure he is just ecstatic to be out of San Francisco and be on a team that is trending upwards. I also think that getting Deebo Samuel in Washington may help Jaden Daniels avoid the sophomore slump that we saw with C.J. Stroud, who was a good quarterback last year, but there was some bumps. Stroud's a very good player, but when Stephon Diggs gets hurt halfway through the year and Tank Dell gets hurt and Collins misses time, you don't have anybody. Now the Commanders have McLaurin and they have Deebo, and maybe they bring back Brown and you have McCaffrey, and you have a ton of money still to spend. So I think it's a good deal for both teams. Good deal for Deebo, good deal for San Francisco, and a big win for the Commanders, although I don't think Deebo will be 2021 Deebo again, but if Deebo can just be part of 2023 Deebo again, that's a win. It's a one-year deal. I don't think they're going to restructure anything. I also would not be shocked to see them not extend him. What does Deebo value more? Financial security of a 2 or 3 year deal, or maybe having the option to hit the market next year? I don't know. Maybe it gets extended during the year. Obviously, time will tell, but I think it's a big win for all the parties involved, which, weirdly enough, brings us to one of the nauseating conversations of the past couple days. That has been Brandon Aiyuk. Will the San Francisco 49ers trade Brandon Aiyuk? Now, if you actually listen to what John Lynch has said, and you actually listen to what Rappaport said on NFL Network, a lot of it doesn't lead to the headlines of the Niners are listening to offers on Deebo Samuel, on Brandon Aiyuk. That the Niners are fielding offers for Brandon Aiyuk. The Niners are, yes, getting calls for Brandon Aiyuk, but John Lynch openly told the media that there is nothing serious happening there, that they're not serious about trading him. However, they're open to doing it. I think that's an honest conversation to have, that San Francisco, who in the past has said they're open to trading Kyle Shanahan at the right deal for a first-round pick or 2 first-round draft picks. Kyle himself said that. So the idea of any player being open for trade discussions isn't new. that also doesn't mean they're actively like, okay, we're going to trade Brandon Aiyuk. They're not shopping him. They are answering the phone, listening to offers, and not taking them seriously. That needs to be out there. John Lynch said it himself. Again, if some team offers a first-round pick or a second-round pick, I think they would do it. That does not mean they're technically open to the idea of it. That just means that, hey, we'll listen to what you got, but really we're really hesitant or refraining from moving Aiyuk this offseason, and it would be just mind-boggling to, I'm sorry, it is bad business to hold negotiations for an entire offseason from the end of last year, where Ayuk's brother is posting on social media, he wants out, this is why we left, blah, 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 all this stuff, to the end of them, where Kyle runs upstairs and says, John, put the phone down, we're not going to trade him, he wants to sign now. It is so, just asinine to go through that entire process, and then the next year, after paying him for 1 year, in which he gets hurt, when his value is in the crapper to the nth degree, then say, now we're going to trade you away. If there is that much front office resentment for Brandon Aiyuk, simply because he made their lives a little harder, even though they willingly signed the deal anyways, maybe you should not be in the NFL business of handing out or signing contracts. Yes, was it tough? Yes. Was it hard? Yes. Was he being a little ridiculous? 1,000%. He admitted that himself. But just because he made your lives a little harder, then got hurt, you're like, nope, we're done, we're out. What a ridiculous thing to do. It's bad business. It makes you, the team, look idiotic and foolish. But for the sake of the conversation, let's look at the finances and the asking price, or maybe what Aiyuk could get back. I am of the belief that if Deebo got a 5th-round pick, who is going to be 29 this year, trending somewhat downwards, Aiyuk will likely be getting maybe a 4th-round draft pick, if you're lucky. If you're lucky. The injury's there, the contract is there. However, the contract may make him more tradable, if that makes sense, simply because it's already signed. If T. Higgins, if Aiyuk was a free agent this year, he'd be getting less money than he got last year. But for San Francisco's case, I think it does make them open to trading him more than, say, last couple of years or so, or for a bigger name. He has 4 years on his contract. San Francisco only takes an $18.4 million dead cap hit. It's not that bad. Not that bad. They would free up roughly $110 million when it comes to money owed to Aiyuk over the next 4 years. So if Jed York is like, look, I don't want to pay him, I'll pay him up front now. But then you're getting into, do the Niners really want to have a combined $50 million dead cap hit by trading away Aiyuk and Samuel in the exact same offseason just to save over $110 million in 4 years? Which maybe they do. Obviously, cap hit guarantees are all different when it comes to whose pocket it comes out of and where it's allocated, although I have a really hard time believing that San Francisco is that pissed off, that angry to say, no, we're done. Deebo, you're done. Aiyuk, you're gone. Greenlaw probably gone. Hargrave, you're gone. Juszczyk gone. I think the asking price is not going, or the lemon is not going to be worth the squeeze. The juice is not going to be worth the squeeze when it comes to trading away Brandon Aiyuk. Deebo Samuel, on the other hand, made sense. It's a player that wanted to be gone. Aiyuk seemingly wants to be here still. I get the injury and the money certainly factors in, but this idea that the Niners want to trade Aiyuk, I think is just wrong. I don't think they want to. I don't think they're going to. And if they do, I think it's a stupid choice. It makes them look just ridiculous in regards to what they went through last year. And, I can praise them for trading Deebo, getting out of the deal, moving on, severing ties. Thumbs up. You did a great job, John. Kudos to you guys. The contract you gave Deebo wasn't great. He didn't perform up to his standard. that he had before, and that stinks, but you got something in return. You're not going to get anything back for Aiyuk. Not worth $110 million receiver that may have upside still, albeit the injury certainly hurts his case. Just bad business. Really bad business. But maybe you're of the opinion that you cut your ties, move on, and call it a day, and really it isn't that bad. Tell me down below, do you like the Deebo Samuel deal? Are you out of the Deebo Samuel? Oh, it's done. Deebo was great. Are you heartbroken he's gone? Are you happy he's gone? Tell me down below. And would you trade away Brandon Aiyuk in the exact same offseason? I must know how you feel down below. I am of the no way it's going to happen, but maybe you're out there and you think it will. I just think that we're in this, everyone's saying something, but really no one's saying anything at the same time. But Ollie P says to end the show, it's a strange that a few weeks ago the media narrative was this season was all in, and now all the riders like everyone is tradable and they don't want to spend any money. Wonder what happened. Jed York happened. Jed York undoubtedly told John and Kyle, I'm not paying anybody else big time money. You were 6-11 last year. You ain't won a Super Bowl. This idea of all in, you can be all in the draft. Being smarter in free agency. Not spending willy-nilly, right? I think a lot of what they were doing was just throwing money at the wall, and sometimes it worked, and sometimes like D Ford, Javon Hargrave, Javon Kinlaw, Brandon Aiyuk, Trey Lance, they were being reckless. This is Jed York reining them back and saying, hey, look, maybe you got to be a little smarter with your funds. Maybe it's time to start budgeting. But maybe that also leads to Jed York saying, get Deebo Samuel out of here. Or, excuse me, get Brandon Aiyuk out of here. Deebo Samuel was already gone. That was a great deal. But Bobo ends here perfectly. I like the Deebo deal, and I hope he wins a championship unless he's playing us, of course. I think it's a great way to end. Deebo Samuel is a heck of a 49er. There is a great case to make. He is one of the greatest 49er receivers of all time. Certainly one of the most unique outside of T.O. and Jerry Rice. The way he was used kind of started a new trend. You had Percy Harvin, Cordell Patterson, Deebo Samuel. Then it was your Laviska Shenaults and your Treylon Burks. Everybody trying to find the next Deebo Samuel. I mean, my goodness. He created his own position, the wide back. Deebo Samuel's time in San Francisco, albeit the end wasn't great, will hopefully be remembered fondly. Really good player, just not for a really long time. And yes, if Deebo Samuel's in the way of us getting a Super Bowl, hey, you got to get out the way, brother. But if the Commanders can get there without San Francisco being in their way, I wish Deebo, like every other 49er, Eric Armstead included, shout out Jacksonville, I wish them nothing but the best, and I hope Deebo has a great 2025 season. San Francisco does not play them next year, so if you want to see Deebo play San Francisco in 2025, you're going to have to hope it's in the playoffs, which would be tremendous. And it would be poetic if the Washington Commanders make it to the Super Bowl at Levi's Stadium and Deebo Samuel wins a championship in front of his former home crowd. Although I hope San Francisco can stop that. That'd be even better if it was us instead. But Deebo, wish you the best. I think it's a great deal for San Francisco. I think they have set themselves up to be successful post-Deebo. I think getting rid of Deebo, if you will, is a great move. I think they'll win this deal handily if they can nail that pick. And even then, even the finances help them in the long run, which is what you want. But tell me down below, do you like the deal? Do you hate the deal? Are you sad Deebo Samuel's gone? And in the future, do you think this team may or may not trade Brandon Aiyuk? I don't know. I don't think they will. I don't think they should. But stranger things have happened when it comes to Niner off seasons. But tell me down below what you think. Follow us on social media at 49ers_access is the X for Twitter. 49ers.access is the Instagram. Use our promo code 49ersaccess, 49ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com and save yourself $20 off your first purchase. And if you want to perform like 2021 Deebo Samuel, like one of the GOATs himself, you got to get yourself a can of GOAT Fuel. Right here is a picture. Down below in the description is the link. Get yourself some GOAT Fuel and save yourself 10% off your purchase by using that link down below in the description. As always, my name is Sterling Bennett. I want to thank every single person in the YouTube comment section. Bobo, Benali P, Rob D, The Great One, Jedi, Calachipto, even Sonia in France, who's speaking Spanish, Strawberry Reacts, Justin Fontenot, Capital Boy saying speed kills. Maybe San Francisco goes out for a speedster. Who knows this year. Thank you all so much for watching, listening. Hope you like, share, subscribe, and give us that 5-star review on the audio podcasting platforms. And as always, until next time, stay faithful.